With 100 million monthly players and the statement that League of Legends has not peaked, according to Forbes back in 2016, the hit game League of Legends is a battleground between people of all skill levels. Hi everyone, my name is Dakota Funke and I'm here to talk to you about how to play mid in the MOBA League of Legends. Having played the game for approximately 5 years now and being the top 1.5% of players around the world, I consider myself to be an expert on the topic. Focusing in on how to get better at the lane, we'll be looking at how choosing your character, farming, and getting gold will help you get better and win more. Now, let's get started, shall we? To start off, let me give you a brief background about the game that everybody loves so much. League of Legends is a multiplayer online battle arena, long for MOBA, created by the company Riot Games, in which players face off in teams of 5 as they attempt to breach the other team's base and destroy the main objective, called the Nexus. While pushing the base may be your main objective, a secondary objective exists, which is to obtain gold and then buy items at the shop which will boost your character's stats. By doing this, your team will stand a better chance in fights and be able to win easier. Now, let's move on to what you'll need in order to get started. In order to even play the game, you'll need a computer capable of running the client, an account from the main website, the game's client itself, which can also be found on the main website, and a stable internet connection. With all that at your fingertips, let's move on to understanding how to play. The most important thing to understand about mid is that it's made up of some of the best players in the game, and that's what we call a solo lane. A solo lane refers to where 80% of the time you'll be facing off against a single enemy since it's too small for anything longer than short skirmishes. This combined with where the mid lane is located creates quite the competitive environment, as most of the time you'll either make or break the game for your team. Now, one of the most important things for getting better is choosing someone to play, and requires you to consider how well they relate to you and whether they're a ranged or melee character. When playing ranged and melee characters, the most important item for judging is to look at their stats, and whether you prefer to be on the front lines or farther back. Looking at the graphic on the right, we can see the differences between melee and ranged characters in terms of their initial starting health and armor. As according to Joseph Smith, a devoted player and esports edition writer, the sacrifice of being a ranged champion is that in general, Riot has decided that you're going to be squishy or weak. You'll almost always have less HP and armor than your melee counterparts. Keeping this in mind, it leads to the first piece of advice, which is depending on whether you're a ranged or melee character, you have to be careful of your limitations. If you're a melee character, you can obviously be farther up and deal more damage without caution, but if you're a ranged character, you have to try and stay back because you'll die relatively easily. Knowing whether you prefer melee or ranged characters can affect how well you play and also how well you do. But what happens when you've found a character that you're good with? Well, another important step to playing better is maximizing the amount of gold that you get in-game per minute that passes with that character. Without new items and gold, a player will effectively become useless as the game progresses, and so by staying even or ahead of your opponent, you can win more often. Getting a gold advantage can be done in two different ways, by either killing enemy minions and champions, or taking enemy objectives. The method of killing minions is called farming, and while it may not seem very important, over time it can add up and make detrimental impact to the game. With every 30 minions being equivalent to 2 kills, a team that isn't good at getting gold from minions will very easily lose, and so it's important that you farm the best that you can. Taking a look at some tips on the slide can help you improve. Earning gold is also basically a resource game, as the amount of gold that you get can also come from ambushes or plays that you make, which is killing players. But to make a play, you have to use resources, and how much should you use? Well, as recommended by Joseph Schmidt from the Esports Edition, knowing how much of your team's resources to spend on a play depends on how big the reward is. Basically meaning, the general rule of thumb is that you must think of the situation at hand and what other objectives may happen in the future. Are you going to be fighting again in the next minute? Most likely. Well, while it may seem worth it at the time, in the future you'll regret it because you may have used something that could have saved your life. So always be careful and try to stay away from overly using your resources. Make sure that you use them correctly. Now, finishing up, I hope that you guys have gathered a little bit about how the difference of a melee or ranged champion can affect the outcome, getting gold, and farming can all affect being a better mid laner. But on a parting note, I'd like to give you guys the last piece of advice as you move on, and that's to always try your best, be a good teammate, and give it your all. Never give up, and you know what? Even if the game keeps you down, there's always an option to come back. You never know what might happen in the game, and with that having been said, go out there, have a good time, and as you might see later, good luck, have fun.